Hello, hello, hello. Test, test, test. Gonna have to mute. No, I'm already muted on all the other platforms. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Levels should be good. I tried to do my due diligence. I had to dust off the old cobwebs. I haven't done a stream in like 2 months because the crypto market has been highly uneventful, or at least not eventful enough to spend the time to do a stream. So we'll give about 2 to 3 minutes for everyone to get in, and then we'll get started. First off, just a little bit of housekeeping. As some of you guys know, I've been writing for Bitcoin Magazine for, I think over a year now, and I've been doing their Bitcoin analysis, writing their articles, and I was doing Ether on there, just Bitcoin and Ether, but they fully switched to just a Bitcoin only news source, and they branched off to another news source. I guess it's like their sister company, and that's called Distributed. So if you've been looking at my Twitter feed, you've been seeing articles coming from Bitcoin Magazine and Distributed. But I guess Distributed when they branched off, they had a few hiccups because they're doing like some sort of reorganization or something. So I won't be doing any altcoin analysis for a little bit. So if you know of any magazines that are looking for someone to write altcoin articles, hit me up. I'm available. Yeah, but so far, just gonna stick with Bitcoin Magazine for the moment. Also, just a quick plug before we get started. My trading group, we've been up and running for about 2 years now, maybe a year and 3/4. Yeah, everything's going good. If you'd like to join, I've got a coupon code. It's Spring19 at the top left corner, and you can get 50% off with your first subscription. So yeah, check it out. And that's at bitcoinschmitcoin.com. You'll see it scrolling across the top of the stream for the rest of the time being. All right, let's get started. So let's start talking about Bitcoin first, and then we'll move over to a few other coins. Let's look at the weekly chart first. I'm gonna put the cloud on, and then I'm gonna take it off, just because I like my presets that I have. Let's get rid of the cloud though, and we'll keep the 50 and 200 EMA. And this is Coinbase, by the way. So, we're going to weekly. Sorry, might be. I'm gonna go to the weekly, and we'll take. Actually, I'll leave a lot of this stuff on, and try to clean this up. So I'll make this a weekly view. Oops, that's not what I want. Trading View keeps changing so many things, like little minute things that are just seemingly insignificant, and then I go to click something and I'm like, wait, my muscle memory's off. Okay, disregard this weekly 200. Coinbase is the only exchange that looks like this with the EMA, this weekly 200. Like if we go to Bitstamp or something, BTC USD on Bitstamp, you'll see that their EMA is in a totally different spot. So disregard this EMA that I have laid out right now. Okay. But because what I want to talk about are these support levels, right here. Okay. So if you're unfamiliar with how order blocks work, I'll give you a high level overview, because I'm not a professional order blocker, but I do find them to be useful. And basically, you can think of order blocks as a really fancy schmancy support and resistance levels. And what it's the idea that you have engineered liquidity that creates upper and lower boundaries on not only just high time frames but low time frames as well. And here is an example of an order block right here. So you block it out. For those that don't know, it is going to be, so if we're like in an uptrend, for example, right? You see how we had a high and then a low, and then it kind of broke north, and there were like no red candles in here, right? So this last red candle, there are a couple different ways. You can do just the body of the candle, or you can do the wicks. I find them both to be useful, as I'll show you here in a second. But this is where this zone is derived from. It's this last red candle, and this is called an order block, or sometimes you see people on Twitter saying OB, or they'll say like bullish or bearish OB, blah blah blah. Right? It's just a zone of support and resistance that when we zoom in on like the daily or like 4 hour or 60-minute or even 15-minute, you'll I just wanted to let you guys know that's where this thing is. That's where this like tan orangish band is coming from. Okay, so let's look at the daily for right now. If TradingView wants to load. Okay, so when we look here, I'll change the visibility on this so you guys can see it a little better. I'm kind of used to seeing this stuff, so I can kind of filter through it a little bit better, but I'll make this a little less visible. Okay, so we've got 3 things on this chart here, and it's been governing this entire the last 3 months, right? So first thing, right, here's the order block I told you about, the OB right here. Right, let me make this a little bit more visible. Let's make it red or orange or whatever the hell that is. Okay, OB here. Okay, and this is weekly. Let me annotate this. Weekly OB. That's this whole thing, right? Second thing is we have a daily order block here. That's this purple guy. So this is going to be it's going to be the daily OB, right? And last but not least, we see a supply and demand channel. That's this descending thing. That's, if you can see it here, it's this whole descending thing here, and that's going to be supply. I'll just annotate it as supply demand channel. Okay. And then we've got some other stuff on here, like some horizontals, and then this nice symmetrical triangle, depending on how you want to skew it. And we also have the daily 50 EMA here, and we tagged it very nicely. Okay, so right in here is a very big point of interest, right? As we go through what happened on the daily time frame, things start to get interesting. Okay, so I'm going to clear off everything that's on here, and then we'll talk about just strictly the price action, and then we'll overlay it back on there. So first and foremost, we see what we closed a new high, not an absolute new high, because we this is the bro that we need to overcome, but a relative high to not only here but the annual high for 2019. We closed a new high and it immediately rejected it. Okay, looking for like a bullish setup. This just cleared a close of a new high, and that was a really great bullish sign, but it immediately got slapped down. Okay, not only did it get immediately slapped down, but it's a gigantic bearish engulfing candle. If you're a candle trader, bearish engulfing. And all bearish engulfing is, for those who don't know, it is a candle that embodies the entire previous candle. So you can have bullish and bearish engulfing candles, and in our case, we have a bearish engulfing candle, because look at this whole candle engulfs this entire little guy right here. Okay. Let me see if I can find an example of a bullish engulfing candle on here. This is kind of a bullish engulfing candle right here. But anyway, point being is that a bearish engulfing candle is a sign, put simply, that supply is highly dominant, and if you're looking like a scale of like supply and demand, supply, demand, right now supply is highly present. And even though we had a very bullish rally from here to here to here, with very little effort, this retraced a huge chunk of it, right? And now when we overlay the things that I had before, this starts to make a little bit more sense. Okay, so if we zoom out, keep in mind this is the weekly OB. Look, we just barely wicked above it, just barely. Okay, if we would have closed above it, that would have been awesome, but we failed to. Okay, we did close above the daily OB, but again, it immediately rejected it. And now we're currently finding support on the bottom of this daily order block here. So if you scroll to the left, you'll see that this order block is generated here. So this whole purple guy is the result of this candle here. And similar to how the weekly was generated, the daily is generated by this being the last green candle before a new low is established. So this is still something that's been looming over the market. So if you've been following my my articles that I've been writing at all, I've been talking a lot about breaking market structure or potentially breaking market structure. And when I say breaking market structure, there's a lot of different ways to define this, depending on what your metric is for a bearish or bullish market structure. But in my mind, there's very simply just a couple of horizontals that we have to keep in mind. And I have them outlined. Where are they? Here. Okay, let me pull this chart over here for you guys. Okay, so I've got some annotation on here, and I'll explain what that is here in a second. But so here's the little symmetrical triangle, bro. All right, but here, okay, so here are the relevant horizontals that we're looking at here. Okay, so we've got this guy, which we needed to close above. We did, but it got rejected. What else? We've got this guy, right? If we extend this line over here, it's approximately that location. So we needed to close above 2 levels. We closed above 1, and that's where things got hairy. So we closed above this first guy. This is good. Check. But the rejection on this level, at the rejection at this level, is where we ran into problems. And when we look at the weekly candles, we see that we failed to, on a macro scale, close a new high there. So although the daily looked bullish, the weekly is the dominant time frame at the moment, and it got rejected. This giant wick on top does not bode well. Okay, not only that, but as I said earlier, when we were talking about the balance of supply and demand in the market, with very little effort, we pushed the price down back into what I think is going to be a trading range. Before I talk about the trading range, I see some questions in the stream, so let's go ahead and address these, and then I'll try to clarify any questions you guys have. Is that latest high a higher high or not? Okay, let me reread this. Is that latest high a higher high? Is that latest high a higher high or not? Been having a debate with a friend, and I said it's not because the previous high is too close to the real high to the left of it. I'm assuming you're asking me about is this high a higher high or not? Is that what you're asking me? I believe it would be the first higher high made of 20K if it is. And okay, so in my opinion, no, we have not made a quote unquote higher high. We have not. In my mind, where we would start to make a higher high would be if we break this level, this thick blue level that I have here. Because when I'm looking personally, when I'm looking at the market and I'm looking at the quote unquote market structure, this is the lowest low, right? And the reactionary high is the level that we're looking at. If we're unable to break this highest high, that's not good. That means that there's still a lot of supply in the market. And it's just an opportunity for people to unload and short down the market. So this thick blue line, this is the level we need to be watching. A close above this would be awesome, right? A wick above this and a close below it would be bearish. And that's what we're seeing, you know, on like the 4 hour or like the 6 hour time frames, right? You know, we broke above and then immediately rejected it. This level. So the fact that we haven't wicked above it means that there's a lot of liquidity being built up here. So if you think about like how markets work, right? So if you're short, you have a stop somewhere, right? So say you shorted here. I'm just giving an example of something, right? Say you shorted. Say you're like you've got a lot of money, right? And you're the guy who shorted this whole thing down. Okay, so you're gonna put a stop somewhere up here, or somewhere above the recent high. The fact that we haven't popped above this current high here means that there's still people that have shorted that have not been stopped out yet, and that's the whole idea of like order blocks, or quite simply support and resistance levels. Is that the reason why support and resistance levels get respected, and why break above or below support or resistance is that you have people who place their stops here, like retail traders, some institutional investors, right? They're going to have their stops up here because this is the most recent high, right? So if you see here, we popped just above it and rejected it. So that means that we got a lot of liquidity up in here, and someone popped above this level here, got a nice short filled, and immediately reversed the market back down, right? That. And it was on high volume and, of course, high spread. So we see a very large candle here. So that means what? That means that there's still a lot of supply left in the market and not a lot of demand to push it above this level. And that's not the end of the world, right? That doesn't mean that you know, all hell is going to break loose. But what it does mean is that most likely we're not going to see a strong breakout anytime soon. That means that there's still a lot of supply left in the market that needs to be absorbed before we can start to see a strong, sustained breakout. And if you're bullish on crypto and Bitcoin specifically, you don't want this to break out prematurely. You really don't. Because if it breaks out prematurely and it gets rejected, well, then you just blew your whole wad, right? And all the demand gets wasted and it gets filled into people's pockets, right? You want to see a strong, well-defined trading range. Ideally, that's what we want to see, is a strong horizontal above and below, and then a breakout of that is going to give us a strong confidence of a continuation of an uptrend. We don't want to see a premature breakout that gets rejected. That's bad. Okay? We want to see a well-defined trading range because that indicates strong control over the market. So if you're thinking about Wyckoff theory, right? A well-defined trading range that is respected heavily at the upper and lower boundaries is best case scenario. That means that that means a lot of the supply is concentrated in one group's hands, and the more control they can get over the market, the easier it is to push the price up. And that's what we want, right? You don't want shorting opportunities to be present at every turn of the page. Okay. So I'm of the opinion that we're starting to define our upper and lower boundaries. So because it's crypto, it's not going to have a very rigid horizontal, because liquidity is just not there to present that sort of hard boundary. In stocks, you see that a lot, where it gets respected to the penny a lot of times, but in crypto, not so much. So we're looking at this to be like our upper boundary here. Okay. And that's good. That's fine. But now I think that it's time, you know, we tested demand 1, 2, 3 times, and now we need to test supply. So, I'm sorry, we tested supply 1, 2, 3 times, and now it's time to test demand at the bottom. So I'm of the opinion that we're going to return to the bottom, and then we'll see what the bulls are made of there, right? The proving ground isn't at the top. This shit is just FOMO. This isn't a test of really bullish pressure. The test of bullish pressure comes when we come down here. And that's what the composite operator, the large institutional investors, are interested in doing. So I think we're going to revisit this low before we see a breakout to the upside. But that's all speculation at this point. But this strong rejection here says to me that we have a lot of supply left, and we're most likely going to come down here and retest this level, you know, before we continue the uptrend. I hope your TA skills are better than your battle royale skills. We need this bear market to be over. And Tonevase says the Tonevase to get it wrong. I've actually been playing a lot of Apex Legends. I was thinking about doing a crypto in games on Apex Legends, but for whatever, I need to work on my. There's something that's not optimized with my stream settings because I have a very powerful video card. I have Google Fiber, so I have the upload and download speed. So something's just not right on my settings. But yeah, I want to do stream some Apex Legends because it's been pretty sick. First screen monthly after a year and a half, probably. Is it? I honestly haven't even looked at the monthly candles. Oh yeah, sure is, or it will be most likely. We have 3 days, right? It's not a higher high. Yeah, I agree. Does that mean we should expect a lower bound retest? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I already answered that question. Never mind, you answered. Okay, cool. Coins like TRX and KMD had and have a beautiful trading range. Yeah. So, when I say, I'm going to give you an example, an example real quick, or a couple examples of when I say a strong, well-defined trading range. I'm going to give you an example here. So, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm talking about Komodo. And Komodo is looking pretty good right now. So when I say a well-defined horizontal trading range, or not even necessarily horizontal, I just mean that like an upper and lower boundary. It could be an ascending trading range, a descending trading range, whatever. But when I say a well-defined trading range, I mean something like this. Okay, you see that again, like I said, it's crypto, so there's like this band of an upper boundary and a band of a lower boundary here. But in general, we see a very well-defined upper and lower boundary. And so we see several tests, right? Several tests of the lower bound, several tests of the upper bound. And then eventually we see supply get absorbed. And then we see a strong breakout of high volume, high spread, and then it's sitting right on top of the trading range. This is what we want to see for Bitcoin. We don't want to see stuff like this happen, right? You see how it broke out prematurely and it immediately returned to the bottom? It broke out prematurely and immediately returned closer to the bottom. But these premature breakouts are actually going to send us to the bottom of the trading range. It's not, again, like I said, it's not the worst thing in the world. It just means that these rejections are an indication that we still have supply left in the market to absorb. So, these are all tests. This is a test of supply, and this is a test of demand. And we see here, in this example for Komodo, we popped a new low here on very low volume, and that was the check mark, the okay from the CO to say, okay, supply is properly absorbed. Everyone who's going to sell is most likely to sell for the most part. And then you see we don't return to this low again. We pop up, we retest the bottom of this trading range. The retest is on low volume, right? And then we test supply one more time, shake out all these guys, and then it sits right here for a nice last point of support test. And then it rallies, right? This is like a picture perfect, ideal accumulation trading range. And we saw that on Tron as well. So if we take this analog and go over to Bitcoin, right, we see we're doing our first, we've only done one test of supply, really. I mean, I guess you can call us a supply test here, but, we didn't test a new low. We didn't test the prior low. And I think that we're due for a test of that before we do anything spectacular. And honestly, again, if you're a macro Bitcoin crypto bull, the longer the trading range, the better. Because that means that the breakout and the bull market is going to be that much more powerful. If you break out prematurely, people will sell into it. What you want is to shake everybody out, have a long sustained trading range, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months, maybe a year, and then it breaks out and we see epic bull runs. That's what we want. Okay, that's what we're looking for, not this bullshit that just pops out and immediately gets shut down, right? Questions before we go any further? You guys have any questions? While you guys are thinking of questions, I'll go ahead and shield my trading group one more time. For those who don't know, you probably all know at this point, but I run a trading group on Discord, and it's been going for about a year and 3/4, almost 2 years. I think it's going to be 2 years in June, I believe. And yeah, I see a lot of excitement on Twitter and a lot of bad information being passed around. But yeah, you know, if you want a good source for objective, critical thinking individuals, come check out my trading community at bitcoinschmitcoin.com and use the coupon code SPRING19 because the weather's beautiful and the price action is too. So go check it out. Imagine a year-long trading range and it breaks down. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, there's a reason why I have this. There's a reason why I have this zone outlined on my chart. So, I think that even if this is a macro accumulation trading range, I think that we'll most likely see a visit of this zone right here for, like, you know, a shakeout or a spring sort of thing, because there is large support, macro support here that has not been tested, and we kind of just stopped almost in the middle of nowhere, and I think it makes sense to test this range right here before we go, you know, bulls on parade kind of thing. Weekly looks like a bear flag. It does and it doesn't. Okay, so I've been getting some questions about, you know, why, you know, people were asking the difference between this and the last consolidation we saw. So keep an eye on this. This is why I think we're making we're beginning to make a macro trading range. Or actually, let me use this guy. This is why I think we're starting to make a macro trading range. Okay, so if you look here, right, at this consolidation, we see that we just make lower low after lower low after lower low, boop, 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 right? So what does this mean? That means that there's a lot of supply here, supply, 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 okay? We're starting to see a difference in trend, both in price action and volume, okay? So here, this guy is the equivalent of like this thing, for example, right? Look how much further it rallied, and look at the volume expansion on the rally. We didn't really see that on this. We see a high volume rejection here. So look at this candle right here. That's this guy. We see a very high volume rejection. And not only that, but we see kind of just like meager volume. It barely breaks the daily moving average for volume on this whole rally. Like, we don't really see that. However, on this rally here, we start to see relatively high volume to the moving average, and it sticks out as quite a notable point of volume entering into the market. So it is different. It is a different structure in that it's hit different milestones price wise, and it's hit different milestones volume wise. So that's not to say it can't be a redistribution or it can't break down and continue the downtrend. I'm just saying at the moment it doesn't appear that way. But you know, it's subject to change, of course. You know, you can't be super rigid in your beliefs. And because we're in this trading range right now, by the way, I'm not looking to long anything. Personally, I'm only looking to I'm looking for short opportunities right now. We're at the top of the trading range. We saw high volume rejection. Personally, I'm not looking to long a goddamn thing. I'm looking to go short, and right now I'm short on Ripple, and that's about it. Talk about the effect of SPY/FANG topping would affect crypto. Okay, so I will talk about that, but not at the moment. I want to knock out all this crypto stuff. Are you short on XRP? Yeah, I'm short on XRP. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion that we're going to return to the bottom of the trading range. And this high volume rejection gives me high confidence in that assumption. Also, the fact that, again, the fact that we wicked above the weekly order block and it rejected on high volume, that's a good sign that we're going to return to at least the bottom of the weekly order block. But I think ultimately we're going to return to the bottom of the trading range. Yeah, so I'll tell you why I'm short on XRP. Well, I guess I kind of forget that you guys aren't in my trading group. So I've been talking about this with everyone in my Discord for a minute, but this where is it? Yeah, this Ripple chart looks like dog shit. So I'll talk about why I'm short on Ripple. So let me get rid of you. So I wrote an article for Distributed. I think it was my second to last article. But this looks like, first of all, if this doesn't remind you of Bitcoin last year, I don't know what will. But look how it keeps getting dunked, time after time after time after time again, and the bullish rallies are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? And not only that, but it's forming this gigantic descending triangle at the bottom of a trend. So that is just a sign that rings clear of weakening demand, like weak. It's all getting weaker. The volume is trending down. It's becoming easier and easier to short this thing down on lower and lower values. So this is the USD pair, by the way. The price target of this thing alone, so I shorted here, right in here, because of this triangle. The price target of this thing alone, if we're being conservative, is this distance, which is it's fucking 20 cents, dude. It's 20 cents, right? So if this thing breaks down, the price target is 8 cents. I don't know if it's going to go that far because I know Ripple fanboys just have a huge hard on for this thing. But at the very least, I'm looking at like a price target of this lower boundary here, which is the bottom of the last accumulation trading range. Like I'm looking at this. So huge risk to reward on this short, and I'm planning on holding it for a long period of time. And if Bitcoin continues to, do its trading range thing, its trading range dance where it goes high, it goes low, bloop bloop bloop, Ripple is just weakening. And the XRP ratio, showing its relative strength to Bitcoin is also weakening, right? So it's also weakening. So if we look at this thing, the ratio on a daily time frame, I mean, this looks weak as fuck, right? It's just bleeding through support. It wicks up, and the wicks are getting lower and lower and lower. The rallies are getting weaker and weaker. So this thing just doesn't look very good, right? And not only that, but it's like a no man's land of support. It is sitting above the 200 EMA, but I mean, who knows if that thing even gets respected? it is sitting on the weekly 50 EMA, but yeah, I feel pretty good about the short. The fact that it got listed on or is being listed on Coinbase, I think it's just a pump and dump opportunity. Yeah. But yeah, I've been talking about this trade for weeks, and I finally feel good about it. And if we look at like the weekly candles, for example, like these weekly candles look like shit. They're just all wick. And when this thing finally closes below this level, and if it closes below this level specifically, I'm going to add heavily to my short. But yeah. Moved one of my lines. Makes sense. Look how much Bcash and ZRX dumped after listing. Yeah. So man, it's crazy to think about because if this would have been listed during the Bitcoin bull market, dude, this thing would have been flying. This is the most bullish thing that's happened to XRP like publicly in a while. And it's like a non-event. Like, look, no one gives a shit, right? If we look at like the lower time frames, like 15-minute candle, look at it. It's just bleeding out. I mean, look, it's just like, look at these humongous cells just coming in. It's I mean, look, this gigantic, this quote unquote buy, but look at it. It went nowhere. And now it's just bleeding right through its local support. So yeah, that's why I'm short. I honestly didn't even know it was going to be listed. I just when I saw this thing bounce off of one of my trend lines that I have here, I just scaled in orders going all the way up to the top of this triangle. You know, with a stop somewhere out here. But yeah, I feel good about it. I'm just gonna hang on to it for a minute. Okay, so someone's talking about people, of course. Everyone's been asking me about Ether, and I don't really know why. I mean, I do know why people are asking me about Ether, but it's not like out of all the coins out there, it's like one of the least interesting. So let's talk about Ether. Ether looks especially bearish. On the daily time frame. Sorry for like the laser light show on my chart. I have two supply and demand channels on here, and also weekly order blocks. So that's where these red things are coming from. They're my weekly order blocks. Okay. So Ether USD looks especially bearish right now. It's more bearish than Bitcoin. Oops. And I'll tell you why. Remember how I said the false breakouts are actually worse than failing to rally to the high? Well, that's because, check this out. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That was a snapshot of a base design for Rust. If you guys ever play Rust, I sketched out a Rust, like a really rough layout for a Rust base. Anyway, so look here. You see how it popped this new high? This is called a swing failure pattern, or sometimes you see people talking about SFP. And that's because of all the engineered liquidity up here. This thing popped its little proboscis up there, like a mosquito, which went sucked up all that liquidity and immediately rejected it. So someone took a really large short position here, and you can see it both in the price and spread and volume here. And the fact that it popped that new high is not good. And these are daily candles, by the way. So, yeah, not good. Most likely, just like Bitcoin, probably going to retest this low down here, or at the very least, retest this weekly order block. So again, if we zoom out and look at the weekly time frame, we see how the price respected this previous weekly order block here and bounced up. My guess is we're going to retest that again. Looks like a double top. It kind of is a double top, but it's not really at the top of a trend, so I guess you can call it that, but it's definitely a swing failure pattern for sure. Yeah. So also, if you look at the Ether Bitcoin chart, it also looks like shit as well. If you look at the daily chart, here I'll get rid of the cloud on here. It came up, wicked this 200 EMA again, and look at that, a strong rejection. So, yeah, not the best. Not the best there either. It is kind of making this like diamond bottom thing, which is interesting. Like we go here, you see a nice diamond. Sorry, that diamond looks like shit. Oop, I'll try it on here. You do see like a nice diamond bottom kind of thing. Like that. But yeah, other than that, I did see some people posting. So, okay, so this is really funny. So I did see some people posting that they thought this was an inverted head and shoulders bottom, or a head and shoulders bottom, also called an inverted head and shoulders. So the reason, and I had a lot of people asking me about this too, like, are you planning on longing this head and shoulders bottom? And I said no, because this looks like, if you remember from I think a few streams ago, or if you're from my trading group, I talked about this pattern that me and another one of the traders in my group identified. It's a head and shoulders fake out. So we call it, a meme head and shoulders, or a head and shoulders bottom, if it's at the bottom. And it's defined like this. So if you have a normal head and shoulders, you have like a horizontal, right? You see a right shoulder come up, you see a head, you see a shoulders, and it comes down, right? This is a typical head and shoulders. A meme head and shoulders, or a head and shoulders fake out pattern, is this. So it comes up, makes a new high, it makes a new low, makes a shoulder, and it keeps going up, right? Or in our case, the head and shoulders goes down, right? Goes the head, goes above the neckline, comes down, and it comes here, fakes a breakout, and it's going to be a continuation of the downtrend. The reason why we call it the head and shoulders fake out pattern is because if you think about what a head and shoulders is, or any consolidation pattern, it's a generation of liquidity for large players, right? So they make these patterns to build up liquidity in certain zones. Typically, what you want to see with a head and shoulders bottom is you want to see at minimum a horizontal neckline, and at best a descending neckline, like that, right? We want to see this typically. But the reason why these fake out patterns exist, because we see a shoulder, a head, and when you come above the neckline, you invalidate all this liquidity, right? So that means you're using this for something other than longing, because if you have a horizontal neckline, you don't want to break it. You don't want to break it just yet. You want to wait until you make the second shoulder, because it builds up liquidity here for a large breakout. If you pop the liquidity early, that means you're trying to short. You're not trying to go long. That means you ran the stops here to build a short position. You pushed it down, and now you're making a final fake out with this fake breakout here, which ultimately ends up being a rejection. So, yeah, this was a head and shoulders fake out pattern, or a quote unquote meme head and shoulders bottom. Okay. XRP is already breaking down. Yeah, I know. But this got a lot of people. I saw a lot of big guys talking about this head and shoulders bottom. And someone in my comment section did point that out to me. And he asked if this was a meme head and shoulders bottom. And I said, yeah, it is. Yeah, total head and shoulder, total memer. And now we've got a lot of stuck. We got a lot of stuck breakout traders on this. Look how much volume is there. And what's even more fucked up about this is, check this out too. it formed a like a bull pennant kind of thing. So we see this like bull pennant. This is so fucked up. So we see this really nice bull pennant. It broke out and immediately retraced. So everyone who longed this breakout is now way underwater. And look, when it rallied back up to the top, it never broke the apex. So kudos to everyone who saw the meme Head and Shoulders breakout, or fake out rather. Okay. That last dump felt so deliberate. It happened in less than 10 minutes. Yeah, it was the ran everyone. Man, it's like clockwork. If you go on Twitter, it's always the same people. I'm not gonna name any names, but it's always the same cocky assholes on Twitter that were like, man, have fun, have fun dying bears. And like, whenever you see someone just like really proud of themselves on Twitter, and myself included, the worst losses I've ever taken are the times when I felt the most sure about a trade. But you see the same people. I'm not gonna name any names, but whenever you see the same people on Twitter that were like really patting themselves on the back for calling reversals and stuff like that, and then you see all of crypto Twitter getting bullish, they always get wrecked. And it's been the same thing for the past year and a half. The same people doing the same trend, the same people hopping onto that same trend, and then they get wrecked like one day later. Exactly what I was thinking. Crypto Twitter has the memory of a goldfish. Repeat the same, repeat the same bull traps. It's literally the same shit. Like everyone's so excited about these bullish rallies, and it hasn't even closed a new high yet. Like have some fucking patience. Have some fucking patience. Have some discipline. Like it's a bear market, for Christ's sake. It's a bear market. Why would you think that you all of a sudden, like, look at all these rallies. Look, every rally, every one of these was a time that everyone thought it was a crypto bottom. Oh, here's one. Okay, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. Like, how many times are we gonna do this, guys? I don't know. I don't know. All right. Any thoughts on Zcash? Yeah, we can talk about Zcash because Zcash had a really bullish setup on a very high time frame. Uh, so on Zcash, we have this very large falling wedge sort of dealio on the Bitcoin pair, which I mean hasn't really broken out. It's like tested a couple breakouts, so we'll go ahead and move this up a little bit because you can see it got denied. But it has a very large falling wedge. I think I just said rising wedge, but I'm gonna say falling wedge on the Bitcoin pair, which you can see where to go, which you can see is kind of dwindling in volume, and it's like at all-time low values relative to Bitcoin. But if you look at the USD pair, this is where it gets really interesting because if we look at the weekly chart, there's a weekly Bollinger Bands W bottom here, right here. So this is really a really nice setup on the USD pair. So we see a low outside the Bollinger Bands, an absolute low inside the Bollinger Bands, and the BBW is curving or starting to curve. It's starting to flatten out, which would make the price target of this thing the midline. But as we start to close, as we start to go sideways, the midline is just going to catch up with us. So again, like I said a few minutes ago, I'm personally not looking to long a goddamn thing. I'm just looking for short opportunities right now. Hi, Mr. Streams. Nice to hear your voice. Well, I missed you in my audience. I got a new mic, so now you can capture the full range of my tonality. I'd love to hear your thoughts on XMR. Okay, I'll talk about XMR. You can't win. If price goes up, everyone is a genius, but if it goes down, everyone is happy because they can buy lower. Yeah, whatever. Do you think KMD is ready for markup? KMD has already begun markup. The Bitcoin pair has begun markup. It is about to. It looks like it's about to begin its sustained markup, but it needs Bitcoin to bottom first, in my opinion. It needs Bitcoin to find support, and most likely, I think what KMD is going to do is, I think it's most likely going to do a reaccumulation trading range right here, or what we would call as a, if you're a Wyckoffean, as a stepping stone reaccumulation. So I'm not in any rush to add to my Komodo position. I already have a pretty large chunk. I'm gonna watch this and hopefully, oops, God, I hate that trading view did that. Hopefully, maybe get a nice re-entry down here for you know, a lower time frame reaccumulation trading range. So you see here, it's got a pretty decent upper, oops, pretty decent upper boundary here, a really nice lower boundary. So I'm expecting to see a little pop down here, you know, somewhere in here that I'll be looking to add little bits and pieces there. But in terms of like the, oops, in terms of like the, in terms of like the macro trading range, it's already broken out. It's sitting up top. I would be surprised to see this return into the trading range, especially since it's the Bitcoin pair. But yeah, I'm looking in here, right in this little band of shit, to get a nice addition. What am I supposed to be looking at? XMR. Oh, also another one to look at is Stratus. Stratus has a really nice trading range here. You know, I hope this isn't what Komodo does. See how it broke out and it kind of bled back in. Komodo looks a lot stronger than Stratus does. It has a much more defined, controlled, like if we compare the two here, so here's Stratus, right? Look at it, it's like kind of a nebulous bottom. The top got tested twice. If you look at Komodo, it's much stronger. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 tests to the top, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half, 6 tests at the bottom. So it's much more well defined. I think Stratus might return to the bottom of its trading range. I'm supposed to be looking at XMR, right? I think I have a chart for XMR somewhere. All right, I'll just make a new one. Make a copy. XMR USD, XMR BTC. Who should I look at for you? I don't look. Has Monero been? Does it have a long price history on Bitfinex? Good enough. Okay. And what about the Bitcoin pair? Should be the same, right? Oh, nice. Okay, so Monero, just right off the bat, has a really nice trading range. Here, you can see it. So here's an example of a nice, strong, controlled, well-defined trading range, right? So again, because of the volatility, you see how I'm looking at the daily closes to define my trading range, but it's got a really nice trading range here. Volume isn't really consolidating, so it's probably very early on in its life cycle. But for the time being, it's got a really nice horizontal upper and lower boundary. We see a test here. it got rejected on pretty decent volume. So it's most likely going to come down here and shake people out. What does a USD pair look like? Probably the same thing. Okay, so USD pair has a decent trading range. The lower value has not really been tested though. So this is, so you could argue that this is preliminary, what we would call as preliminary support. So if we label this thing out, this would be like, I'll do it right here. So this would be, oops, let's make this 14. So this would be our selling climax. Our automatic reaction, our secondary test. This would be the preliminary support. And right in here is going to be like the juicy accumulation range. But this honestly, the volatility in here does not look like accumulation though. It's a thing. So this could be a redistribution. It's really early to tell, but the volatility and the fact that it stays at the upper boundary of its trading range is sometimes a sign of distribution taking place. Also, like I said before, on the Bitcoin pair, like you don't see consolidating volume, which is not the best thing in the world. Like we would want to see consolidating volume. Like I'll go back and refer to Komodo here because it's so good. You see generally consolidating volume. You see high volume on the rallies, which is good. Low volume on the reaction off the rallies. And you see good buying response, right? When we go to XMR, we don't see that. We see consistently high volume reactions off the highs. Not a clear volume trend, right? So, XMR should get like should put a dog ear on this one and come back to this at a later date. I wouldn't feel comfortable going long here personally. I wouldn't feel comfortable shorting it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable going long either. It's just I see no reason to allocate capital to this trade personally. Please look at the BCN Bitcoin chart. What is BCN? Oh, Bitcoin. What the fuck is this thing? What is this? What the fuck? Okay, so it seems to be doing like one of the Doge thing where it like sits at the bottom for a long period of time, accumulates pump and dumps, and just distributes it along the pump. But it's sitting on macro support. I don't know, dude. I don't like to trade stuff like this. I know a lot of people make a lot of money doing it, but I just like to trade clean accumulation and distribution trading ranges because they're easier. I just don't. I don't know. That's not for me. HIT BTC. What? There's nothing there. Oh, here's the example of another clean accumulation trading range that broke out was the Tron. Right, very clean accumulation, and bloop, broke right out. Homeboy wants to look at Icon BTC. What? Is it ICX? Is that what you're looking for? Um, so this is a weird one. Okay. The USD pair makes a little bit more sense. So USD pair has pretty clean horizontals as well. Still has a lot of supply present here, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it return to the bottom of its trading range. Another bearish engulfing like we talked about earlier here. Yeah, it doesn't quite look ready to break out, but it is at the bottom of a giant downtrend, so we do see clean upper horizontals being established. We see strong buying pressure on the way up. I think we're just kind of in the shakeout period here. We do see a little spring here too, but trading ranges can have multiple springs. This looks like there's still a lot of supply to shake out, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it return back to the bottom of the trading range, honestly. All right, what is this guy freaking out about? Look at the BCN BTC chart on it. Okay, this looks even worse. Why am I looking at this? All right. All right, anything else you guys want to look at? I'll look at a couple more charts, and then we'll bounce. Enjoy the rest of the day. How's little Ripple doing? Good. Yes. Bleed. Bleed, my little shitcoin, bleed. All right, if that's all you guys want to see, I'll show you Litecoin, because Litecoin had a really nice Bollinger Band M top on the daily. This was a really great trade setup if you got it. Do you only trade or do you also invest in crypto? What's the difference? I mean, a quote unquote investment is just a long-term trade. If you invested in crypto over the last year, you lost your ass. So I don't differentiate the two. I trade stocks. I trade stock options. I trade, crypto on higher time frame stuff. Sometimes I'll do intraday charts. Like yesterday, I'll do I did a couple of Neo trades yesterday, or I'm sorry, over the weekend. But for the most part, I trade high time frame charts, like daily, sometimes 4-hour charts is the lowest I really like to go. Because the volume is just not there and liquidity is not there on exchanges to really get a good read on low time frame stuff. I know a lot of people have been really successful with it. It's just not something that I like to do because I find it to be highly stressful. So I look at like daily and weekly charts for the most part. Do you still hold your S&P and Dow longs? No, dude. I'm actually underwater on a couple of my on a bunch of my puts. The stock market has just been climbing and climbing and climbing. So no, I got out of those longs a couple weeks ago. I mean, I made good profit on them, but yeah, stock market's just been climbing. Anyway, if you're interested in continuing this discussion and want to hear more or participate in the discussions that are going on in the trading group, everyone's online from all parts of the world, so there's people on there 24/7. Go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and use the coupon code SPRING19. And I'm trying to keep the streams relevant to like just smaller to larger time frame stuff where like it pings the bottom or the top of the trading range or stuff like that. Like if you noticed, I just didn't even stream this entire length down because I'm like, who gives a fuck, right? But yeah, for these major moves, if you want to keep updated on my opinion or the whereabouts of the various traders on my in my community, go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com. Use coupon code SPRING19 and get 50% off your first subscription. So that's all I got for you guys. I'm gonna try to write an article for Bitcoin Magazine, and yeah, you guys have a great rest of your day / week, and try not to get faked out by too many meme head and shoulders bottoms. All right, bye.